This episode of Bulletproof Cash Flow is brought to you by Realty Dynamics. Learn how people like you can build substantial passive income while creating wealth for the long term through real estate investing. Visit rdyne.com. That's RDYNE.com.
Okay, so out of the three ways we buy, owner financing, sub 2, and lease purchase. Lease purchase, you can't do in Texas, would be in the middle, sandwich lease. We prefer to own and versus just control. So we like better the owner financing than sub 2, where we're not really in the middle, we own it. But yeah, we don't usually assign. It's on a rare occasion. Back when I talked to you, maybe we did a few more, but I don't like to assign out because when I sign out a contract, I get one payday. Since I talked to you, trademark federally, the 3 paydays. I want to stay in this deal. I want 3 paydays. I want sometimes 4 we create. I want this deal going long term.
Working because you want to, not because you have to, is financial freedom. And we want to help you create that. Welcome to the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. We're going to teach you how to achieve lifetime financial freedom through real estate investment. Your host is a multifamily syndicator and property developer. He's done deals reaching into the hundreds of millions of dollars. You'll hear from experts in all aspects of real estate investment, finance, development, and management. Everything you need is right here. This is the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. And this is your host, Augustino Pintus.
Hey everyone, it's Augustino. For many investors, one of the greatest benefits of building passive income in real estate is the ability to spend time doing what you want to do. Now, however, it comes down to putting together a sustainable portfolio that can withstand the tough economic times and prosper in the good times as well. Now, our next guest knows all about this. He is a real estate veteran. He's been in the real estate game for over 27 years. He's been through many economic cycles and has designed a life centered around real estate to ultimately find freedom. But it wasn't without its challenges. Growing and scaling a real estate portfolio and preparing to get through the tough patches does indeed take some work. Now, as he would say, it all comes down to aligning your values, your purpose, and your mission for better communication and business growth. Now, he is the Amazon best-selling author of Real Estate on Your Terms and the founder of SmartRealEstateCoach.com. He's also the host of the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast, so definitely check that out as well. Now, with all that, I'd like to welcome my good friend, Chris Prefontaine. Chris, buddy, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate that, Augustino. Good to be back chatting again and under different times in the economy, so I can't wait to dive in.
Yes. It's been a while since we talked. Now, guys, if you like what Chris has to say, you can reach him via his contact page at smartrealestatecoach.com. Okay, Chris, go ahead and tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got started, and for those guys who don't really know you.
Yeah, so I'm actually going on, I'll date myself even more than you dated me. I'm going on 30 and a half years now in the biz. And so what we do now, it all came about, as you remember, from the crash of '08. So what we do now is, when I say we, my son-in-law, Zach, who's partner in the company, as well as my son, Nick, we have our own property entities. We go out and we buy and sell all day long, every day, every week. And then we have Smart Real Estate Coach that gets out in the trenches with students. And here's why I'm saying that right up front. You and I both know you can learn till you're blue in the face, or try to learn till you're blue in the face, but to actually get in the trenches and get deals done, it's a different deal. It's candy coated in too many ads and marketing, and we get in the trenches and do deals. So we're doing it ourselves, and we do it hand in hand with the students all over the country right now. So we're in an interesting time, and I love diving into this stuff.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the types of deals you're doing.
Yeah. So we only purchase, again, for context, for listeners that may have not have heard the past episode, and you can go back to it so I don't repeat. But when I got out of the '08 crash, there were some very, very, very big lessons learned. And one of them was, I'm not signing on bank loans. To this day, since the last time I talked to you, no bank loans. I won't do it. So how do we buy that? And without using money, without raising money? Well, we buy owner financing, one of my favorites. I don't care what market we're in, subject to existing financing, and lease purchase. In that order, in this economy, that sometimes shifts, but that's the order of priority for me right now. And so we're not ever signing personally, putting up money, or raising money. And so that's an interesting thing to know when the market starts doing what it's going to be doing here for the next decade. Who knows, right? It's going to be bopping and weaving.
Right. And this is still going to be single family. We're talking specifically single family, not duplexes, not triplexes, not big multifamily.
Well,
right?
Okay. So good question. So I teach kind of like, I'll say from the platform, quote unquote, right? Just I teach in general single families. However, and we do primarily, but like my office building, I'm sitting in my home office today, Augustino, with you, but my office building was bought on a financing in a marketplace. We're on an island within Rhode Island. Like this, it's a hot market where I am always. And so people say, well, how did you get that? Well, I had an owner that was free and clear, my favorite, who wanted, not had to be sold, wanted to do on a financing for tax and estate and planning reasons. So we have a beautiful building that I won't sell right now. And it's all bought without using a bank. Literally took minutes to construct. I didn't go through underwriting. I didn't sign personally. And so the short answer is you can buy anything on terms, on creative financing. You can buy planes, boats. People do it all day long, every day. And so we have done multis. Yeah, I put them in my IRA sometimes. We do all kinds of properties, but 95% of them and what we teach is singles. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's essentially two dynamics here. The first is the need for the housing. So of course, getting the inventory, right? But then the secondly is how you're financing it, which I think it involves a real mental shift, right? Because everyone's accustomed to, well, if you need a property, you go to the bank. That's the default, I think, for many people, right? Before we cover that though, let's go back to the inventory, right? Because there is this housing shortage. I mean, we're developing stuff. I was telling the green room, we're doing ground up stuff. We're doing redevelopment of historical assets, doing all kinds of stuff like that. There's a nationwide housing shortage, right? We're becoming a renter nation. So I think that finding inventory right now as guys in the space is very, very important to find the right asset at the right price and being able to hang on to it for a certain amount of time. So let's talk about that for a second. How are you finding these assets these days?
Yeah, I'd love to. This is good. So there's leads in every market, and all that changes, and I'll talk about where we get them in a minute. I'll drop some nuggets so people can build a list if they want. But all that changes for us is, okay, so the market heated up. Was FSBOs, for sale by owners, a valid lead source for us when it was really hot? Well, no, not as much. So then it was more the expired listings. I don't care how hot the market is, listings expire in every market, in every pocket of every market. And then what became very prevalent during and post-COVID and now are two cool things. One is tired landlords. I'm telling you, we're getting call after call after call with people going, I'm just done. Like I went through that, I lived through it, but I'm done. And they want to sell portfolios, 1 to 50 properties we're getting calls on. Great. Most of them, a lot of them are free and clear. And we'll talk about why I love those later, because I've already mentioned that twice. The other list that's really cool, I'll drop this nugget, is it's so easy to find sellers if you just get resourceful. One is go build a list of people that bought a home in 2019. Right before COVID. A lot of stuff happened since then.
Yeah.
Like we use PropStream, and it's on our resource center, but whatever you use, you can get lists of almost anyone. There's actually a list right now, Augustino, that's called COVID stressed homeowners. Don't ask me how they pulled it, but we're now working that list too. Every market has sellers that need your help. Yes, the market's hot, but right now, because of forbearances are coming due and things like that are happening, I don't want to say please. It sounds like it's a negative with what's going on, but I'm happy that we can help people, and I'm shocked at how many people are coming forward going, I can't do this anymore. My forbearance is up or whatever. So people need creative financing more than ever right now.
Yeah, and it's something you said a second ago here too. Helping people. This is not about being a predator. This is not about taking advantage of someone's bad fortune. You're actually helping them out of a situation. Like there's someone right now that can't sleep at night because of this whole issue. If you're able to help them out of that jam, and you're helping them, you get to make some money along the way. You're taking on the risk now. You're taking it off their plate. Nothing wrong with that, So I think people need to be reminded of that sometimes. When I mention some of these strategies, some of these folks. So I'm not going to get into it. They will. You're being predatory. I'm absolutely not being predatory. No one else is going to give them. The bank's certainly not calling them up and asking them if they can help them, right?
No, this is a hot item too. You're hitting all the hot points, in my opinion. We didn't talk about this, you and I. The consumer guy, like the biggest consumer polls right now, the biggest ones, the biggest companies are screaming out with the results that more than ever, the consumers want someone they can trust and they want a guide. They want a trusted guide. So if you can position yourself, we've done it with our Wicked Smart community, but if you can position yourself as the authority, the trusted source in your marketplace, they will come to you. And if not, I'll show you how to go get them, but meaning find them. Because I'll give you two scenarios here, opposite ends of the spectrum. Right now, here's what we're dealing with. Free and clear sellers, you can buy that list. A third of the properties in the U.S. are free and clear. Free and clear sellers right now want long-term structured deals. They're free and clear. They're into maxing out their dollars, but doing that on terms. I'll give them any price they want if I get my term. Opposite end of the spectrum, however, we're getting calls from those people I just said that are stressed. I'll give you one quick example. I think these are always better than theory. This is just this week, but I could do this every week. Woman calls us. She couldn't afford a $600 first mortgage payment and a $238 second. Sad. So she was only like $2 or $3 grand behind and was going to let her house go for that kind of money. It means no family was around. No one could help her. We caught her arrears up. We didn't try to lowball her and short sale it. We caught her arrears up. Now her credit's sort of fixed over the next few months. And we bought the property. Thrilled to death, in tears. Thought she was just going to lose her house and get beat up for 7 years. So both ends of the spectrum are happening right now. And that's a really good thing for people that know what they're doing in the creative finance space.
Nice. Hey, Augustino here, and I would love to connect directly with you. Text the word books to 844-428-1344 to receive weekly book recommendations from me. Now, that's good that we could find the inventory. Now let's talk about the financing side of things, because the way you're doing it, you've applied what's often referred to as creative financing, right? Owner finance, subject tos, wraparounds, or all that fun stuff. Very, very different than a non-recourse type of loan from a bank or doing it under an LLC, because even in those cases, there's still an element of personal guarantee, right? That's a whole other discussion. We'll cover that maybe later on.
Another seminar.
Yeah. But maybe for those folks that aren't familiar, at a very, very high level, very briefly, because I know that this could go very, very deep, especially if you're going to cover all three. But what does that mean exactly? You touched on it a second ago here, the financing aspect. Like maybe describe a little bit of your favorite one, for instance. Let's go with that.
Yeah. My favorite one is owner financing. Here's why. We niche down owner financing. For us, it means free and clear sellers, like my building I bought. And take it further, we actually structure 97% of the time our monthly payment to the seller, so no bank involved, we're paying the seller just like my building, is principal only payments. Think about that for a second. Talk about a recession hedge, recession resistant. We bought an oceanfront property. I'll leave my building on the side for a second because that was sort of a hybrid. We bought an oceanfront property. We've since just sold it, but we held it for 4.5 years, and we bought it for $945,000. Again, right on the water, beautiful. And we structured $2,500 a month principal only payments, $30,000 a year coming off of principal. Try that with a conventional loan. It's not going to happen. So people go, well, how do you convince? You don't have to convince them. You have to just work the seesaw a little bit. You got price, you got down payment, you got monthly payment of principal or maybe interest. You got some variables there. As long as the seller is willing to work, they get one or two and you get one or two, and it's a win-win, great deal for everybody involved. So owner financing, free and clear properties, principal only monthly payments. Now people say, well, not everybody will do that. Okay. So my building was bought. The owner said he's a big landowner. He's not new to investing. He said, I'm not going to do principal only. I said, well, I'm not going to do interest, Alan. And he said, all right. So we came up with a hybrid. For the first 18 months or so, I did principal only. I hammered it down. I brought that mortgage balance way down. Then at the end of the 18 months, we stopped, amortized the balance at 5.2% for him. He thought that was the greatest creative thing. He was a math guy. He loved it. So you can do kind of variations of this technique, but mostly it's principal only for us. And that's my favorite way to buy a property. Yeah, for sure.
So I think one of the key aspects, though, here is that this Alan, you just talked about, the guy you bought this building from. I mean, he's an investor. He knows and understands the whole concept. But when you are calling on a person that's in trouble, like that lady you mentioned before, I'm assuming there's some sort of educational period that takes place here, because oftentimes people are not even aware of how to even do this. Like they've been told the same way, I'm sure maybe early in your career, I was certainly told this. You want a house, you go to the bank, you get a loan. That's how it's done. That's That's, open and shut. That's it. How do you do that? I mean, I have to imagine that you must encounter some resistance when you first even talk about it, right?
So it depends on the motivation. Every time a student calls me, we analyze deals, we analyze live calls. My first question there's two things, but the first one is, what is their motivation? In other words, not in a negative sense. What's their reason for selling? Second would be the math. But first is motivation. I don't care about the math if the motivation's wrong. So her motivation was she's in trouble. The conversation usually progresses very quickly when they're in trouble. When they're free and clear, yes, it's a little bit more education, but we keep it simple, Augustino. So simple would be like this. The woman knew she was going to lose her house in this case, right? Let's go that end for a second. So the conversation is like this. It's a sub-2, meaning subject to her existing financing staying in place. We're not paying that off. We're just catching her arrears up. So we said, listen, Susan, we're going to catch your arrears up. So eventually, 6-8 months, your credit will start to repair itself on its own. Okay, that's good. Secondly, we're going to immediately take over the payments on your property. And she said, okay, for how long is this going to take? I said, I don't know. And when I eventually cash my buyer out, that loan will be paid off. We'll give you a heads up 30 or 60 days beforehand. So it's going to stay in your name. House is coming to me. The loan's staying in your name, but I will keep it paid. That's what we do for 30 plus years. That's our reputation. So that was it. Can she go do her due diligence and get some education on our website? Yeah. We provide Q&A videos on the website on purpose so buyers and sellers can go there and go, aha, okay, I saw your videos, now I just have these questions. And our students, we call them our associates, they have access to the same videos. So we set them up to win and be the authority by having the same education process to your question for their buyers and sellers. I don't know if that helped.
I don't know. That's huge, because oftentimes if someone's trying to do this cold, right, or someone's trying to do this on their own, it's very, very difficult, because oftentimes for someone who's not familiar with this stuff, I picture someone who buys a list, get on the phone, talk to the person, educate them for about an hour about how this whole thing works, go over questions all over again, hang up the phone, 2 days later, call back again. And it's a whole process. Rather, you've made the investment over a great deal of time to record the videos, to explain it. I'm assuming you have explainer videos too and all that fun stuff too. So it's like it makes it very, very easy and consistent too. So that I imagine is a very big part of keeping the message the same throughout the whole process, and really answering everything up front. Because it also, thinking about it here, you're eliminating the people that have no interest in doing this without having to spend the resource on the phone banging up on that person that has no intention of following through anyway, right? That's
correct.
That's huge.
You nailed it. And to go back to something you said earlier, just to make sure everybody has context, I was in the building rehab, then realtor space before I sold to Coldwell Banker, all the way up to like 2000. So whatever that is, 18 years. And to your point earlier, I didn't do creative financing, but is it new? No, it was new to me and you, but this has been done since the 1600s. I picked up a book recently. I used to say 1800s. But I picked up Vanderbilt book recently written by, what's his name? Anderson Cooper, about his family. And whether you like him or not doesn't matter. My point is, it talked about a story in New York City where they were buying and selling on owner financing in master leases before banking. So this is not new. People just need to understand. And I wish I knew way back when I was a realtor. But so just for context for people to understand that. Now, here's the other thing. You mentioned about the education and the person going out and picking up the phone. Here's the challenge, in my opinion, in the industry right now. It's not new. And that is, there's what we call a gap. So the person that you just described goes to a seminar or sees it online with COVID or whatever, and then goes, this is great. The educator probably gave them all the good stuff, all the fluff. We kind of peel back everything. So like there's no surprises, but most don't. I get criticized for it. I tell you what's going to happen, the good, bad, or otherwise. But the ones that don't, then they pick up the phone, they get their first curveball. They go, this is not what I thought. This is hard. And they go look for the next shiny object. Don't do that. There's people like us that in every niche, right? Commercial, residential, storage, that will help you in the trenches. That's who you want.
Yeah. Now let's get to the heart of the whole subject here, is developing a recession-proof portfolio. Because I think one of the key elements here, which we just touched on, is the fact that all this stuff is owner financing. It's not touching your personal credit. So conceivably, if you manage your credit properly, you can have a super high, great credit score. Super. Helps in other scenarios of life. But I want to take a pause from today's show to share something that I've been encountering. As I speak to many investors, there's this concern, and the concern is centered around the inflation we've been experiencing and the devaluation of our currency. Now, we've seen some of the highest inflationary periods over the past 30 years. That's up over 8%. Economists actually believe that inflation is closer to 20%. Some say it's even more. Now, what does this mean for you? Well, it means that money that is sitting in your bank account or self-directed IRA that's not invested in physical assets that hedge against inflation are losing buying power. That means that every minute, every second, that dollar is becoming less valuable. You see this every day. You see this in the groceries you buy, the gasoline you buy, everyday items that you're buying on a daily basis are becoming more and more expensive, and you're using a less powerful dollar to buy these items, meaning that dollar is losing value if it isn't put into a property that produces cash flow, just like real estate does. Now, our team here at Bulletproof Cashflow has put together a series of weekly webinars that cover real estate investing like multifamily, net lease, and real estate development. Now, these are purely educational webinars. In these webinars, we talk about why real estate offers a powerful opportunity right now and why it makes sense to invest in these assets today. So, if you're interested in real estate or want to have the opportunity to get involved as a hedge against inflation yourself, I encourage you to go to bulletproofcashflow.com/webinars. That's bulletproofcashflow.com/webinars. Now you go there, these webinars are 45 minutes and they cover different topics every week. We go over the things you need to know to avoid some of the common pitfalls when it comes to investing while getting you prepared to invest your paper dollars into a real physical asset. Now, if you can't make the webinars, just go ahead and register and we will send you a recording that you can watch at any time. And by the way, these webinars are entirely free. There's no cost to you. This is just something that we do to educate our folks out there. So if you're enjoying this episode, please like and subscribe to Bulletproof Cashflow. It helps the channel tremendously when you do. Now let's go ahead and get back to the show. I think that the major thing here is that if you're able to acquire these houses, these single family, well, I prefer single families personally, but if you're able to acquire a bunch of these things without having to worry about any type of recourse from a bank if things go south, that part is huge. It's absolutely huge, and I seem to believe that when the tides do turn, and it will, you're in a position to possibly sell, either own or finance the house out, back out to someone else that maybe can't get the bank financing because that's how they're taught, right? So, I mean, you're able to, I guess, turn the tables and help someone else get into a house by doing an owner finance scenario, right?
Yeah, there's so many ways to pivot. You like nailed 2 or 3 just in that one, couple sentences. But just know this from a comfort level standpoint. Yes, to your point. When I put my head on the pillow at night, we control like 80 million in real estate. I seriously do not worry about one single solitary loan because I'm not on it. Far different than pre-08, where I was up every night worrying about that. And if you're out there and you got beat up ever on one deal or 10 or you were in the crash, please understand, I had collectors, I had repossessions, I had IRS, I had credit, I had it all. So when I designed this, I designed it to thrive in up, down, sideways economies. And so, yes, it's super important for you to know you're not signing personally, and that puts you in a leverage position. All our contracts have been written masterfully since like 13 till now, over and over, change, tweak, as we learn things in the field to put you in the best leverage spot. Meaning, if the market changes or if this one, by the way, we should define market. There's no one market, right? Let me just give you my opinion on that. There's pockets everywhere. In Rhode Island, the smallest state in the country, there's like 3 or 4 different pockets. So don't get caught up in the market when you hear the crap news. So whatever your market is, know that you can pivot and bop and weave with it. And there's an answer to a pivot out, a longer term deal being had, because the way our agreements are written, you are in full control. Our agreements are such, some of them, depending on how you buy, that if Augustino's my seller and I don't like the way the market's going or my buyer backed out, I can call Augustino and say, hey, we're going to renegotiate this. And if not, I can give him the house back if I want. Now, he doesn't want the house back. It's the last thing he wants to do. So we renegotiate. I'm just giving you one little tidbit of the contracts, but they're written very, very well. And that's why I'm so comfortable with any market.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, I would imagine no one loves to do a whole renegotiation, but sometimes it's necessary to find that right buyer, because you're basically, and we should probably cover that too. You are serving as the middleman, right? So someone is sometimes picking up that contract, right? So it's not always you that picks it up, right?
We don't assign contracts, but to your point, so out of the three ways we buy, owner financing, sub two, and lease purchase, you can't do in Texas, would be in the middle, sandwich lease. We prefer to own and versus just control. So we like better the owner financing than sub two, where we're not really in the middle. We own it. But yeah, we don't usually assign. It's on a rare occasion. Back when I talked to you, maybe we did a few more, but I don't like to assign out, because when I sign out a contract, I get one payday. Since I talked to you, trademarked federally, the 3 paydays. I want to stay in this deal. I want 3 paydays. I want sometimes 4 we create. Like, I want this deal going long term. So we don't assign out anymore, typically.
Nice. So now, I've interviewed a lot of guys here on the show, and I think that people generally agree that the way that the market is moving, I know there's not one market, generally speaking, there's this upward trend, and it's not just small. I mean, there's sometimes major jumps depending on where you're at, what city you're at. It's ridiculous. It can't possibly go on like this. I saw it happen in 2008. Certainly the circumstances are a little different today. It has a lot to do with us printing money into oblivion and that money trying to find a way into hard assets. That's a whole other discussion there. But given everything you got going on right now, you've been in this market for a very long time. How are you preparing for a potential downturn?
Mm-hmm. Here's what we're doing with all our students, not just us. This is important. I have a responsibility in my head, and our family does. So we are doing mainly making sure the students in our deals are pushed out long term. Number one. So what does that mean? It means instead of back in 13, 14, where I'd be very cool with 36-month deal, I am not even remotely close to comfortable with that now. We have no problem now getting 60 months to 20 years. My building's 20 years. Now, if I get at least 60 months, better 72 or 120, do I really care with the couple bops and weaves in the market? 100% no. Now, back to my original thing about the contracts. Could I change all my deals to longer term deals that are already in the works? Yep. And we're doing that readily. And you make it a win-win. It's not just about us. To your point earlier, you don't want to always go back. Well, sometimes you do, because we took an owner financing deal, for an example, that was 4 years, made it a 5-year, then made it a 6-year, then added 15 more years. Their accountant okayed it and said, this is a great deal. So there's ways to do these deals that are win-win. And so that's what we're having the students do. Push the terms as long as you can. And if you can, buy it versus control it. Very important. So those two things give you total leverage.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning too. Yes, I mean, even if you put a 15-year on, it doesn't mean you can't get a payday on this other asset over here and then use that cash to just close out the other one, and great.
100%. We do a lot of that. Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So, and then once you own that asset, I mean, I have a whole thing about owning something free and clear, because you always want to get cash flow out of that asset. But then again, you can turn it around and then owner finance it out to someone else. Maybe a family that's looking for a home too. So, I mean, that's why what we're doing is we're getting into these larger assets, mostly C, B, and C type things, where the rents are fairly low enough that no matter what happens in any market, those folks still need a place to live, no matter what, and certainly they're not going to go move to a place for $4,000 a month. They're not going to do that. They're going to want to provide for the family. Maybe $800, $900 a month is very inexpensive, and we provide very good, clean homes, right? So it depends on where you are. It depends on the overall market. So,
we didn't hit, Augustino, if I may.
Yeah.
There's something going on now that we call the perfect storm in our community, but you've got, I said forbearances, that's a piece of the perfect storm. But the other piece is the Fed. This is not my or your opinion. The Fed is screaming that they're going to keep raising interest rates. They're saying it, not me. Okay. If we know they're saying that, they probably will do some concoction of that, right? Some form, big or small. Okay. If we know that, what's going to happen to the first-time buyers that are on the cusp of qualifying because rates have been obnoxiously low? Not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands are going to get pushed to the side. They are so frustrated with that they think they can't buy a home again. That's where you come in. and you can be the guide to them. I talked about forbearance. Well, this is another one. There's so much opportunity right in front of us. That is happening. And so you're going to have all these buyers that need you to get into these homes creatively. And you're going to have all these sellers that went, what happened to the demand? I thought these buyers I thought the rates were good. Nope. Things are starting to change in that direction too. That's another positive for creative financing. And I can't wait to help people do that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's, with the rates moving as fast as they're moving right now, the people are getting, I mean, it's funny how, even back 5-6 years ago, a 5% rate was actually fairly cheap.
We thought it was crazy. Yeah.
now it was in the threes a few months ago. Now it's climbing up to the fours, and we're like sweating bullets, right? It's nuts how that works, right?
Yeah, relax. It's all good. My first house was 10%. I thought that was the norm back then, in 1988.
Yeah. So it's funny how that works, but I think that with these folks that got the forbearance, what many don't realize is that if you took forbearance, it somehow gets registered somewhere. And if that person selling the house realizes, like, or a lender or whatever realizes a forbearance type of scenario, that counts against you. People don't realize that. It's a negative on, I don't even know where it's recorded. I don't even think it's on your credit report, but it's somewhere. It is recorded somewhere. I just don't know where it is.
I honestly don't know either. I won't pretend, but I think you're spot on. And maybe some are like that. I don't know, because that's evolved, right? How they report.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I think that we're going to see a lot of those folks that they took the forbearance, didn't to completely understand what it meant to their credit and their financial future. And we're also going to see a lot of those folks that were, they were evicted, right? They were evicted and we don't take any evictions in any of our assets. Like, if you're evicted, sorry, can't do it. It's too big of a risk, but sometimes there were some circumstances, maybe there were, I don't know, but by us offering homes to those folks, it gives them a second chance to prove themselves to them. And really, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it does. It still gives them a roof over their head, So there is no bad scenario there. There is no bad scenario. Yeah. Now, would you say that you're, and I hate you saying hoarding cash, but are you actually trying to also, the reason why I hate it is because cash is garbage. That's why. Most smart people don't keep a whole lot of cash just lying around because it's losing value every day. But what sort of mechanism are you doing, if any, to try to, I guess, maintain a reserve so when the bad times come, you're able to go off and ping these things off? Or are you just going to lean harder into the owner finance model that you really prefer?
Very good. So a couple things. One is we've always practiced, if you're familiar with Mike McCallowitz, profits first. So literally in all of our entities, we've got 16 different entities. They all flow cash-wise through the profits first buckets. If you're not familiar with it, instead of us getting to the whole thing, Mike McCallowitz wrote some great books on it, but Profits First is one of the books he wrote. He was also a recent speaker of ours, so I've really immersed myself in his material. So all that to say that the buckets are building up no matter what we do. Now we have a lot of what we call payday threes coming up, Augustino, because we've been at this creative space so long. And those are usually to the tune of 50 or 100 grand. And we have 1 to 4 of those a month now, like for the foreseeable future, because we've done so many deals. So yeah, some of those are getting built up in the accounts on purpose, but it's all through profits first for sure. That's how we do it.
Nice. Good. So someone's listening right now. They're concerned about the future. They're concerned that maybe the next 18 months or so, there's going to be some sort of downturn. What sort of recommendation would you have? What sort of bulletproof cash flow advice would you offer to them to really prepare for what's going to be coming up?
Yeah, besides me giving you a biased comment and a selfish comment that everything we just talked about works for us and it was built that way, and do that. I get that not everybody's going to want to be in that space. So do this. Regardless of what space you want to be in, what niche, doesn't matter. There's a lot of niches and sub-niches in real estate. So I'll remove myself for a second from creative real estate and say, find a niche for us that you can get behind. So you might say, Chris, what you talk about, it's not for me. I want to do commercial or great. Find it that you really get passionate about and you want to help people with that niche. Second, this is a key one. Find someone in that niche. This is direct answer to the question, that has been through cycles. Please, please, please do not go team up with a mentor or an educator that has gone through no cycles and is new since COVID or new since 08. No offense, but you're not going to get the help you need. You need someone that you can go, hey, so-and-so, I just heard that the market just dropped 20%. What do you do next? Get someone in that niche that you can really, really understand that they've been through a bunch of rocky roads in the past and been through 2 or 3 cycles at least, because they're out there. Just find them in every niche. And then third, this can be tougher. Put the blinders on for 3 years. And I'm going to give you a caveat to that. I want to say 3 to 7 years. And here's why I say that. If you said to me, if I was your mentor and you said, hey, Chris, mentally, I'm committed for 3 years. I won't look at any other shiny objects. I'll do whatever you tell me for 3 years. And that's not easy. I understand. But if you said that, I know when a speed bump comes along, because they're coming, that these deals aren't easy. Okay, tomorrow, next year, whatever, market change or not, you're going to have speed bumps. I know you won't sway. You won't get off course. Brian Tracy, when he was on my podcast, obviously, said, I told him my 3-year philosophy, and usually people agree with me. He said, no. I think he said, I'm 82, 83. It's 7 years as an entrepreneur. He said 7 years, whether you like it or not. It's first 2 or 3 years, you're going to suck. Then you're going to feel like you're adequately paid, and then you're going to have success. So I like his thing better than my 3 years. So it's 3 to 7 years I need you to commit. Those are the 3-step formula to get to any market. Nice.
And I think in the green room, we're talking about you're going to be making a book available to people, right?
Yeah. So we created a link just for your audience. Go to wickedsmartbooks.com / I want to make sure I get it right. Bulletproof cash flow. So wickedsmartbooks.com / bulletproof cash flow. Now, context again. This is a free book, hard copy, hardcover, Amazon bestseller. So don't go there and buy it. We're going to send it to you for free. You are not going to get to a page that I just gave you and say, oh, by the way, pay $6 and $8 for shipping. We're going to ship it from our office. The whole package costs us close to $20. You're going to get it. I know I'm opening up a can of worms there to your audience, but I want to. I want them all to have that so that they can see where, why, and how to put this in place.
Nice. And it's, I think, and to emphasize something here, find a mentor that's been through it, because you've been through a lot of cycles. I've been through some cycles. You've seen a lot of bad stuff. I mean, I remember you just said a second ago here, you had the IRS knocking on your door. You had all these bad things happen to you. You're able to overcome it, clean all that up, and then build a whole lot of wealth for yourself and for your family, for your students, for your associates. And I have the same sort of experience as well. So I totally understand how people out there really do need to align themselves with someone that really has been in the trenches, has been through some tough stuff, and has been able to recover and really apply their knowledge to build success. I mean, it's so underrated right now. There's, like I said, shiny object syndrome all over social media. It's ridiculous, So
agreed. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, listen. If you want to reach out to Chris, you can reach him via his website at smartrealestatecoach.com. Don't forget to download that free book. It's actually a free book, a hard copy book, totally free to you. It's, and of course, if you have any questions, reach out to Chris. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you next episode. Take care.
You've been listening to the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had fun. Make sure to visit our Apple Podcast page and leave us a 5-star review. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. For real estate coaching, events, and resources, hit up bulletproofcashflow.com. Till next time.
No information in this episode should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Any investment opportunities mentioned on this show are limited to accredited or sophisticated investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure and subscription documentation and subject to all applicable laws. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice.